You think you know true terror. You believe the shadows merely dance with the light, never truly consuming it. You are wrong. There are places where the veil between worlds thins to tissue paper, where the screams of the wronged echo not in the mind, but in the very foundation of a soul. And there are men, like Arthur Sterling, who build their empires on the ashes of innocent lives, believing themselves immune to the reckoning. But the night has eyes, and the flames a memory. And sometimes, the architect of a nightmare becomes its most exquisite victim. Arthur Sterling's mansion, the Obsidian Spire, stood a testament to his ill-gotten gains, a grotesque monument to a conscience long since incinerated. Perched atop the highest hill in the desolate, wind-swept outskirts of Blackwood Creek, its darkened windows stared out like empty sockets over the sprawling, unkempt landscape. The very air around it seemed thicker, laden with an unspoken dread that clung to the ancient oak trees twisting like skeletal fingers towards the perpetually bruised sky. Arthur, a man whose corpulence was matched only by his avarice, had amassed his fortune through a labyrinthine network of shell corporations and dubious dealings, culminating in the fiery destruction of the bustling Willow Creek Night Market. He had raised a community for an insurance payout, a calculated act of arson that had claimed not only livelihoods but lives, leaving behind only the acrid stench of burnt hope and the silent echoes of despair. Now, he lived a life of grotesque indulgence, his nights a blur of expensive amber liquid and the fleeting company of women whose beauty was as ephemeral as his fleeting moments of peace. The grand halls of the Obsidian Spire, adorned with imported tapestries and ancient, silent statuary, resonated not with joy, but with the hollow clinking of ice in his crystal tumbler, and the low murmur of his own self-congratulatory laughter. The initial whispers began subtly, almost imperceptibly, weaving themselves into the fabric of his debauched existence. It started with the faint scent of smoke over his ironclad will, yet the occurrences intensified. He began to find odd scorch marks on the polished oak banisters, faint imprints that looked almost like fingertips, too small for his own, too delicate to be accidental. The whiskey in his glass would sometimes ripple, though no tremor had shaken the house. The shadows in his study, usually predictable and deep, would occasionally seem to writhe, elongating and twisting into ephemeral shapes that seemed to beckon, to warn. One evening, as he entertained a particularly vibrant young woman, a delicate antique fan on a nearby mantelpiece spontaneously combusted, sending a shower of sparks across the Persian rug. The woman screamed, fleeing the mansion in a terrified frenzy, leaving Arthur alone amidst the smoldering embers, a faint metallic tang on his tongue that tasted vaguely of blood and regret. He dismissed it as a faulty wire, a structural defect, anything but the gnawing suspicion that began to burgeon in the darkest corners of his mind. Sleep became a battleground. He would wake in a cold sweat, his heart hammering against his ribs, convinced he had heard whispers in the dark, the faint, disembodied cries of children, and the low, guttural moans of adults, all swallowed by the insatiable maw of flame. His dreams were a hellscape of fire, bodies writhing in agony, their faces contorted in silent screams, their eyes empty black holes fixed upon him with an accusatory intensity. He saw the intricate blueprints of the Willow Creek Night Market, the detailed schematics he had meticulously drawn, outlining every vulnerable point, every ignitable surface, every escape route he had deliberately sealed. In his waking hours, the scent of smoke became a constant companion, a phantom presence that permeated every room, every meal, every breath. It clung to his clothes, his skin, his very essence, a silent, choking reminder of his heinous act. His opulent dinners, once a source of gluttonous pleasure, became unbearable, as the aroma of charred flesh seemed to rise from his gilded plates, turning the finest cuts of meat to ash in his mouth. Then came the design arm, his chest, his legs, crying out in confused agony, tearing at his clothes to find nothing but unblemished skin. Yet the pain was undeniably real, a scorching brand that left no visible mark, only the terrifying knowledge that he was being marked, scarred from within. The women he brought home, once a distraction, now recoiled from him. Not just from his increasingly erratic behavior, but from the faint, almost imperceptible scent of singed hair and burnt fabric that clung to him. A spectral effluvium that no amount of cologne or expensive soap could eradicate. They spoke of chilling drafts, of seeing fleeting shadows that darted just beyond their peripheral vision, of hearing the whispers of names they didn't know, names that seemed to curl around them like smoke, whispering of judgment. His alcohol consumption escalated to a terrifying degree, a desperate attempt to drown out the spectral clamor, to numb the inexplicable agony that now consumed his body and mind. He would sit in his study, swaddled in darkness, staring at the evolving inferno on his wall, watching in morbid fascination as the ghostly conflagration consumed the phantom market. Each window that materialized on the wall brought a burning sensation to his eyes, each rafter a dull ache in his bones. The walls of his mansion, once symbols of his success, became a canvas for his undoing, a slowly unfurling map of his crimes. The phantom pains, initially localized and sporadic, began to spread, intensifying with each new detail of the burning market that appeared on the wall. He felt the crushing weight of the collapsing roof on his chest, the searing heat of the flames on his face, the suffocating smoke in his lungs. The architect of the fire was now experiencing its horrifying reality, not as an observer, but as a victim. He would scream, a guttural, primal sound that echoed through the empty halls, collapsing onto the marble floors, writhing in silent agony. His once robust physique began to wither, his skin turning a sickly pallor, his eyes sunken and bloodshot, reflecting a profound and points of pain erupted across his entire body, a sensation far beyond any physical suffering he had ever known. He felt the intense, unimaginable heat of the fire engulfing him, the suffocating press of bodies, the crushing weight of debris. His screams were no longer mere cries of pain, but the desperate, dying wails of a man being consumed by an inferno of his own making. The spectral flames on the wall flickered, grew brighter, and then, with a horrifying finality, began to blacken, turning into charred, smoking imprints. As the last vestige of the market turned to ash on the wall, Arthur felt a chilling, internal collapse. The physical agony, though unbearable, was merely a prelude to the psychic disintegration that now seized him. His mind, once so sharp and calculating, fractured under the relentless assault of guilt and terror. He saw their faces, the faces of the victims, not in his dreams, but in the very air around him, their hollow, accusing eyes staring into his soul. He smelled their burning hair, tasted their ashes on his tongue, heard their dying breaths in his ears. The mansion, once his sanctuary, became his personal hell, filled with the ghostly specters of those he had wronged. He crawled from his study, a broken, whimpering husk, driven by an unbearable need to escape the inferno that now raged within his mind. He stumbled through the darkened halls, his hands outstretched, his eyes wide with a madness that surpassed all reason. The whispers followed him. The phantom flames licked at his heels, and the faces of the dead pressed in on him from every shadow. He found himself at the grand entrance, the heavy oak doors now seeming to pulse with a malevolent energy. With a final, desperate surge of his remaining strength, he tore them open, only to be met not by the roaring storm, but by a swirling vortex of smoke and embers that solidified into the spectral forms of the market's victims. Their eyes, once empty, now burned with a cold, righteous fury. Their translucent hands reached out, not to touch, but to envelop him, and the heavy burden of their ghostly vengeance lifted, not because he was forgiven, but because he had finally, irrevocably, surrendered. When the authorities, alerted by a terrified groundskeeper who had witnessed Arthur's public confession from a distance, arrived at the Obsidian Spire, they found him huddled on the mansion's steps, his confession repeated in a desperate, broken monotone. His eyes, though still haunted, held a sliver of peace, the peace of a man finally unburdened by a secret that had consumed his very soul. The fires had claimed him, not with physical flame, but with the slow, agonizing burn of guilt and the crushing weight of ghostly retribution. The tale of Arthur Sterling serves as a stark, chilling reminder that some debts are not paid with mere currency, and some fires burn long after the physical embers have faded. For those who choose to build their fortunes on the suffering of others, the whispers of the wronged will find you. The shadows will stretch, and the very air will thicken with the scent of your transgressions. Do you truly believe your darkest secrets can remain buried? That the silent screams of your victims will not eventually find their way back to your doorstep? Look closely at the cracks in your walls. Listen to the inexplicable sounds in the dead of night. And ask yourself, what forgotten specters are you harboring? What spectral flames are slowly, meticulously, burning their way towards your reckoning? Share your own chilling experiences, the unexplained phenomena that haunt your own waking hours. For in the shared dread, perhaps, lies a sliver of understanding. Or perhaps, only further descent into the inescapable darkness.
Thank you for watching my video all the way to the end. This closing piece of music is a small gift for you and for everyone who made it here. If the story in this melody moved you, please don't forget to leave a like. It may be just one click for you, but for me, it means the world and keeps me going. Wishing you a few joyful, relaxing moments.